This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Hawke's Bay, your community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.
I'm a dreamer of 3D pictures. I'm a traveler of a different kind.
Hi listeners, it's Nikki Mountain here from Dyslexia Unpuzzled, right here in Hawke's Bay. Welcome to our monthly podcast where we dive into incredible stories of transformation and triumph from members of our community. At Dyslexia Unpuzzled, we're passionate about supporting neurodiverse individuals and their families to overcome challenges, whether it's with learning, focus, or navigating life with neurodivergence. As always, we're broadcasting on Radio Hawke's Bay, 104.7 FM and 1431 AM. This month I'm thrilled to welcome Hana Park, a personal friend of mine from Waikato, who has recently been diagnosed with adult ADHD. Hi Hana, it's really lovely to have you here with us and thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Hi Nikki, thank you so much for inviting me to talk. I appreciate it.
Cool. So I understand, Hana, that you're in your 30s, so that's quite late to have discovered that you've got ADHD. Were you surprised by the diagnosis when you received it?
I was and I wasn't. I find it quite sad that it's taken this long for me to be diagnosed correctly. I wasn't surprised with the diagnosis, I think mostly because I ended up diagnosing myself before I decided to seek help, so there wasn't too much shock there when I got the correct diagnosis.
Okay, so could you share a bit about your journey and what led you to get to this point where you are now?
Of course. It was actually TikTok, believe it or not.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I started to see a lot of posts of people with ADHD describing sort of their symptoms that maybe don't make it onto a list in your GP's office, and especially women with their symptoms, which are a lot different than men or boys, and that was sort of when things started to click. I had already been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and social anxiety, and despite having those medicated and treated and seeing therapists and doing the CBT, nothing really was working to like more than a certain point. And I felt like I could get better than that, and realizing that we were just treating the symptoms rather than the cause.
Okay.
When all those puzzle pieces started to click together from watching TikToks.
Well, for goodness sake. So, yeah, my next question is did you actually feel or notice that you had a problem all being different to other people?
I think my whole life, honestly. Looking back, I was sort of a daydreamer. I was very shy. Considered myself pretty lazy, and then had a lot of shame from that. I was super messy, procrastinated, struggled to sleep. This is from as early as I can remember, and then it got worse in high school.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah, so I was just about to ask, so what was it like for you during your school days with that sort of, all those symptoms going on?
Well, I was actually pretty lucky, and I think there's quite a big sort of group of us who have above average intelligence. So we sort of slipped through the cracks with people not realizing that we're struggling with certain things. Like I could never study, but I somehow absorbed a lot of information just by being present in the room. So I was passing everything in school, but at a certain point when we did need to study, I couldn't do it, and I couldn't figure out why my friends could do it so easily and not me. So I would get given word fines from my teachers, so they wouldn't waste our task sheets because I'd never filled them in. So that was the support I was given by my high school teachers.
Right.
And eventually I just stopped going, but I would turn up for my exams and usually get through just with a pass. And that's how I finished high school.
Gracious me. So, yeah, most of us would be jealous of being able to just absorb that information and just turn up and pass an exam, but that certainly wasn't for me. But you obviously have had your challenges in other areas. So,
yeah. Well, it didn't feel good. It felt like I felt broken because I couldn't figure out how to retain information like everyone else. And it was a lot of the procrastination and then jamming last minute, sort of using the panic of an exam to give myself the motivation to study.
Right. Yeah.
Stay up all night and study and get that pass. But
that's
certainly it was a lot of anxiety living life like that.
Okay, so yeah, I can imagine. And that's a classic ADHD symptom is, staying up all night and cramming like mad for an exam. So, yeah. So before you had this diagnosis, how did you cope with the challenges that you faced?
In an unhealthy way, in my early 20s, late teens, I'd say what I know now was seeking dopamine and control. So self-harm, take a breath, eating disorders, unsafe sexual behaviour, excessive drinking, binge eating, doing sort of anything to find that dopamine anywhere I could. Smoking. I'm not sure if I said that.
No. Yeah. Oh, wow. So yes, that's, some pretty, like you say, damaging and unhealthy habits there that, must have taken you a whole lot of courage to be able to turn that round.
Yeah, it was really the tipping point to actually going to ask for help. Sorry, I'll just take a breath. I probably should have given a trigger warning for that.
We can pause if you would like to.
No, that's fine. So I kept that all really secret from my family, all those struggles. So no one really knew that I needed help, and it wasn't until I decided that enough was enough and that I needed to get myself sorted out. So that would have been in my maybe 22, and that's when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety.
Okay.
That's when I started being treated.
Right. Yeah, but did you actually get the right treatment in the beginning?
I got the correct treatment for the symptoms I had at the time.
Okay.
I think. So I was put on an SSRI for the depression, and I was put on an antipsychotic to help me sleep, not for psychosis, but just to help sleep, which I think is such a big aspect of all mental health, is being able to get adequate sleep.
Right.
So I think I wasn't getting, the cause wasn't being treated, but the symptoms were, and it sort of was enough to get me through
Okay.
for a while.
Yeah. So, and where was the sort of tipping point, as you say, where you decided the symptoms weren't the actual problem? So it must have taken a lot of courage, even to go in and say, I think you've got it wrong, have a look at this, and show you TikTok videos, or how did you go about this?
So I went back to my GP. I've had the same GP. He's been fantastic and such a good support, and takes a lot of what I'm asking and what I've researched. He takes it seriously, which is really validating. But I just ended up writing down a list of all my symptoms that I could remember, everything Mum and Dad could remember from me being a child. And I showed it to him, and he said, oh, I think possibly you do have ADHD. So that was that. It was something that I worked up a lot of courage for, and it ended up being really easy.
Oh.
I think I had a lot of anxiety around it, because I know that with social media being more prevalent and people being more connected and talking about these things, I know that there's an increase in people going and saying, I think I have this.
Right.
And I was worried that I would be, I don't know, belittled or something. I'm not too sure what the worry was. But,
right.
No, so that was great, and he referred me to a psychiatrist who deals mostly in ADHD.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, kudos to you for putting all that information together and just presenting your case, because, there's lots of us that would go to a doctor and say, hey, look, I'm feeling this, I'm doing this, I'm, thinking this, yada, yada, but not actually taking the time to do the research first. And the fact that you've collated also, childhood things that you have done from your parents as well, and put that all together and added it all up really, and presented it to your doctor. It just must have been just such a relief when he said, oh yeah, I think you have.
It was such a relief, and I was pretty certain by that point that that's what I have, and yeah, it was very validating having him agree.
Yeah, that's really cool. So how's your life changed now you've got the correct diagnosis, and I'm assuming the correct medication and stuff?
So it took quite a while. Unfortunately, our mental health system is a bit broken at the moment. I went privately to a psychiatrist, and the first lot of medication he gave me, we had to play around with the dose a little bit. I think almost immediately I noticed I was more sociable. I could sort of just crack on and get things done. It's still such a work in progress, but unfortunately then we have had a shortage in the methylphenidate in New Zealand. So
right.
The past maybe 6 months it's been a struggle to find.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been interesting going off that, off the methylphenidate. It's been like an interesting experiment, but not one I really wanted to have to do.
No.
But yeah, so I spoke to my doctor again, and with actually the medication that there's a shortage of is an extended release medication.
Yes.
And there's no shortage in the immediate release medication, so I'm on that now, and it's actually better. I've only been on it for a month, but I think we've actually, through the shortage and having to change, I think we have found the medication that works for me.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, how cool. So, What's one thing, Pete, you'd like people to know about ADHD that might challenge some of the misconceptions out there?
I think I personally, the thing I'm having to really challenge my own misconceptions with is laziness, because I've had a lot of shame around feeling like a lazy person, and to hear that is a part of a disability that I have, and it's not my fault. I think that's really a really important thing to try and challenge, having feeling shame or feeling anger about how other people have to sort of make their way through everyday life.
Yeah, for sure. So for anybody else out there who may be questioning that they, whether they have ADHD or not, what advice would you give them?
I would talk to your doctor, research, like look it up, look up any symptoms you have, write it all down, because if you have ADHD you'll probably forget everything like me, and really just fight for yourself, fight to be taken seriously and taken care of within our mental health care industry.
Yeah, so it's obviously been sort of a almost lonely journey for you, Hana. You've sort of done a lot of this by yourself. Have you had any other support apart from your family?
Yeah, I've had support from friends, I guess. I am a pretty solitary person. I find comfort in being by myself and with my animals and with the few people that I keep close. But I have an incredible support system that I often say without them I'm not too sure where I would have ended up.
Oh, well, that's just, reassuring that you have got that around you, Hana. So, that's, frightening to think of any alternative there. So, what do you find is... Sorry, I was just going to say, and I suppose on that note, the emergency service lines and healthcare lines are so important for people who don't have those support systems around them, and reaching out to talk to people if you can is important. Oh, that's really cool, Hana. Thanks for sharing that. So, what do you find is the most empowering about understanding yourself better through the lens of ADHD? I think it's sorry, I just have to have a little think. I'm really sorry, my brain has just that's all right. So, I'll just ask another question. So, looking ahead for you, how do you see your diagnosis shaping your future? Now that I know what my diagnosis is, I think I'm going to have to shape my future around it. So it's lots of learning how to deal with things like being forgetful, procrastinating, struggling with making a routine. I now have about 10 alarms on my phone during the day to remind me where I'm meant to be and what I'm meant to be doing, and I think just learning to put healthy routine into my life however I can to sort of get to a place that I'm really comfortable and proud of. Well, it sounds like you're making some huge big changes there, and it's almost exciting sort of discovering a new you, really. Yeah, I think so. I think once you get past the regression that happens when you get diagnosed with something and
sort of take a deep breath and the mask comes off, and you don't have to, why you're struggling to keep up with the average person. I think once I'm sort of on my way through the regression of that, it is exciting. It's exciting to see what I'll be able to do, and I know that there are strengths that come with my diagnosis, and being able to point those strengths in the direction that brings me joy.
Wow.
Great.
Awesome. I think that, if you can find joy in your life, then, that's just ultimate, isn't it? So, and I wish you really well on your journey, and, we're always here to support you this end. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to sing out for a second. So I've got no animals down here in Napier, but you're welcome to come down for a holiday anyway. So
thank you so much, Nikki.
Hey, Hana, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I really have enjoyed talking to you, and I've certainly been enlightened.
Oh, thank you for having me. I know it was a bit of a ramble, and I'm very much at the beginning of my journey, but hopefully someone hearing this gets something out of it.
Well, I'm sure our listeners will. Thank you so much, because it's been inspiring to hear about your journey and how this diagnosis is helping you move forward, with clarity and confidence within yourself. So, any listeners out there, I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's conversation. Have you or someone you know experienced something similar? Please feel free as well to reach out and share your experiences. I'm always here to listen and learn from you. Thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast on Radio Hawke's Bay. If you've missed part of the show, or you can catch the replay on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock p.m, or check out our website for past episodes. Until now, until next time, take care and keep embracing your amazing uniqueness. So don't forget, we are here on Radio Hawke's Bay 104.7 FM and 1431. So, Nikki Palamountain from Dyslexia Unpuzzled, Hawke's Bay.
This is my gift. This is who I am.
This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Hawke's Bay, a community access media station. Thank you to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.
And I were the person that I knew them before I met you, perfect as you are now. I've changed, I know you've done the same. I reveled in the depths of your mind, so much like mine when you said it's taking over my life. We realized the Jones will never fill us, they were Christ. This is my goodbye, you say in tears. My whole life I've waited to see this, so don't go anywhere. I feel just light as air, the fire sparks between us. We win the plug for friendship, paranoia of the mind. At 1 a.m. we crept into bed, I hadn't whole life. I've waited to see this door.